Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Evam parabhijayena. Evam parabhijyanena. Katritvam prakrite puman. Katritvam prakrite puman. Karmasu kriyamanesu. Karmasu kriyamanesu. Guner atmani manyate. Guner atmani manyate. Evam parabhijyanena. Katritvam prakrite puman. Karmasu kriyamanesu. Guneratmani manyate. Evam parabhijyanena. Katritvam prakrite puman. Karmasu kriyamanesu. Guneratmani manyate. Evam parabhijyanena. Prakritam prakrite puman. Tiktraya prakrite goma. Karmasu priyamanesu. Guneratmani manyate. Matajis. Evam parabhijyanena. Kritim prakrite goma. Karmasu kriyamanesu. Guneratmani manyate. Word for word translation. Evam, in this way. Para, other. Abhijanena, by identification. Kartritvam, the performance of activities. Prakrite, of the material nature. Puman, the living entity. Karmasu kriyamanesu, while the activities are being performed. Gune, by the three modes. Atmani, to himself. Manyate, he considers. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation: because of his forgetfulness, the transcendental living entity accepts the influence of material nature, accepts the influence of material energy as his field of activities, and thus actuated, he wrongly applies the activities to himself. Purport: the forgetful living entity can be compared to a man who is under the influence of disease and has become mad, or to a man haunted by ghosts who acts without control and yet thinks himself to be in control. Under the influence of material nature, the conditioned soul becomes absorbed in material consciousness. In this consciousness, whatever is done under the influence of the material energy is accepted by the conditioned soul as self-actuated. Actually, the soul in its pure state of existence should be in Krishna consciousness. When a person is not acting in Krishna consciousness, he is understood to be acting in material consciousness. Consciousness cannot be killed, for the symptom of the living entity is consciousness. The material consciousness simply has to be purified. One becomes liberated by accepting Krishna, or the Supreme Lord, as Master, and by changing the mode of consciousness from material consciousness to Krishna consciousness. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshudamritam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So thank you for coming to Srimad Bhagavatam class today. Today is Dwadasi, and today is also the auspicious day when one of very close, intimate associates, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, whose name is Govinda Ghosh. Today is the day he left this world and went back home, back to Godhead. So today is his disappearance day according to Vaishnava calendar. So Govinda Ghosh, he was one of 3 brothers, and him and his brothers, they were very much known for their kirtans. So Mahaprabhu, he really liked Govinda Ghosh's kirtans, and whenever he used to sing during festivals like Ratha Yatra, Mahaprabhu used to dance very ecstatically in response to their kirtans. So there's one nice pastime famous pastime of Govinda Ghosh. So it said that Govinda Ghosh, he was a brahmachari, associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And one time, Shri Radha Gopinath ki jai. One time, him and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they went for a program. So Mahaprabhu, he's a sannyasi, and Govinda Ghosh, he's a brahmachari. So he's going as an assistant of Mahaprabhu. And in the program, the devotees, as usual, they fed Mahaprabhu lots and lots of prasad. And because of so much prasad that Mahaprabhu had to honor, Mahaprabhu, as part of his pastime, he was afraid of having some indigestion. So Mahaprabhu asked Govinda Ghosh that, to protect my stomach, from indigestion, I need some herbs to help me digest. And Mahaprabhu asked him to get haritaki. It's like a special food that will help with digestion. So then Govinda Ghosh, he goes out to find haritaki. He finds it, then brings it and offers it to Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu takes the haritaki, and Mahaprabhu is very happy and pleased with Govinda Ghosh's service. Then next day, Mahaprabhu again asks Govinda Ghosh, can you go and please get me some haritaki again? This time, Govinda Ghosh immediately gives him very quickly haritaki. And Mahaprabhu inquires, yesterday when I asked for haritaki, it took you some time to go out, find it and bring it back. It took you like half an hour or 20 minutes. But today, just in 1 minute, you're giving me haritaki. How is it that yesterday it took you so long, but today, just like that, you're giving me haritaki? Then Govinda Ghosh said that yesterday when I went to get haritaki, I collected a good amount and I gave you some. And the excess haritaki I saved with me, and I had it with me. So the excess haritaki I had with me, so today when you wanted haritaki again, I was able to give you immediately. Then Mahaprabhu, he becomes very grave, and then Mahaprabhu tells Govinda Ghosh that actually this saving business is not good for brahmacharis. And because Mahaprabhu explains to him the duty of a brahmachari or a brahmana is that he shouldn't save anything for the next day. So according to Shastra, during the day, a Brahmana, he will get a lot of different things in charity. So according to Shastra, charity should only be given to Brahmanas, Vaishnavas or Sannyasis. They are the proper recipients of charity. So kings, grahastas, different people in the city or villages, they would all go and give charity to the Brahmanas. So during the day, Brahmanas, they would collect a lot of different things. Food, grains, fruits, vegetables, gold, cows, ornaments, dresses, so on and so forth. So during the day, so many different people from all around the village or kingdom, they will come and give many, many gifts in charity to the Brahmanas. Shri Shri Radha Gopinath ki jai. So during the day, Brahmana would collect so many different things. But Prabhupada explains, according to Shastra, a Brahmana, he begins the day as a poor man or a pauper. At the end of the day, whatever he has collected in charity, he should again give in charity to others. And he should only keep just enough for himself to maintain himself for that day. And everything excess, he should again give back in charity. So this Prabhupada explains is the duty of Brahmanas. They should start the day as a pauper, or they should start the day as a beggar. And at the end of the day, they should again, whatever excess they have, they should give in charity and go to bed as a beggar again. Why does the Shastras give this injunction for Brahmanas? So the Brahmanas, they maintain or they cultivate this mood of complete dependency on the lotus feet of Shri Shri Radha Gopinath. So this is the strict Shastric injunctions for Brahmanas. So Mahaprabhu explains to Govinda Ghosh that, you shouldn't have saved the Haritaki to the next day. And because you saved the Haritaki, you should change ashram. You should become a grahastha. And Mahaprabhu orders him to get married. And Govinda Ghosh is shocked. For your service only, I saved, excess Haritaki. And just for this small mistake of saving, little herbs, little medicine for you, you're asking me to change ashram, you're asking me to get married. You're asking me to give up my brahmacharya. But Mahaprabhu says, no, you should do. You should get married. This is against the principles of brahmacharya or against the principles of being a brahmana. A brahmachari should never save anything to the next day. He should always, whatever excess he gets in charity, he should give away. So then, Govinda Ghosh, he has to get married. So he gives up brahmacharya, he takes into the grahastha ashram. And then later on, he has a son also, he has children. And he was worshipping in his household life, he was worshipping deities of Shri Shri Radha Gopinath. Just like we have our Radha Gopinath, Govinda Ghosh, he also had his Radha Gopinath deities. So he used to very lovingly worship his deities, Shri Shri Radha Gopinath. And after some time went, Govinda Ghosh's wife, she passes away. And Govinda Ghosh's son, he also passes away. And now he's left all alone. Then Govinda Ghosh goes up to his deities, Radha Gopinath, and complains that, my dear Lord, I was happy as a brahmachari, and just for a small mistake of saving Haritaki to the next day, you told me to change ashram, get married. Then I followed your instruction, I got married. But then now after I got married, my wife is gone, and my only son is also gone. Now I'm left all alone. What is this? Like this, in a very loving mood, intimate mood, he is very lovingly complaining to his dear Lord, Shri Shri Radha Gopinath. And Gopinath, he talks back to Govinda Ghosh. Gopinath ji, he chastises Govinda Ghosh that, you stupid, you don't have any brain. Okay, why one of your sons has already passed away, but why are you starving the second son also? Why are you torturing the second son? And Govinda Ghosh says, second son, who is my second son? And Gopinath ji says, I am your second son. You are my father, I am your second son. Okay, one son is gone, but still you have me as your second son. Why are you starving me? Why aren't you feeding me bhoga? At least take care of me nicely. Then Govinda Ghosh tells Gopinath ji that really, you accept me as your father, you are my son. And Gopinath ji says, yes, you are my father, I accept you as my father. I am your son, you take care of me. Like this, Gopinath ji tells Govinda Ghosh. Then Govinda Ghosh says, if you're really my son, then will you do pinda for me? So in Vedic culture, after the father passes away, every year, the son is supposed to do the pinda or the shraddha ceremony for the benefit of his father or his parents or his forefathers. So Govinda Ghosh asks, will you do pinda for me? Will you do shraddha for me every year after I pass away? And Govinda Ghosh says, Gopinath Ji says, yes, of course, I will do pinda for you. And then Gopinath Ji, he asks Govinda Ghosh that you go call all the villagers from the village. Then all the villagers, they assemble. And then in front of all the villagers, Gopinath Ji, he proclaims that I, Shri Radha Gopinath, we accept Govinda Ghosh as our father, and we are their son. And we promise that after Govinda Ghosh, he leaves this material world, goes back home, back to Godhead, we will personally do pinda for him. We will personally do the shraddha ceremony for him every year. And Gopinath Ji, he does do that. After Govinda Ghosh, he passes away from this world, which falls today. So, yesterday was Ekadasi. Does anyone remember the name of the Ekadasi? It's something starting with P. Papa Mochana. So, the day after Papa Mochana Ekadasi, on Dwadasi, according to Vaishnava calendar, is the day when Govinda Ghosh, he leaves this material world and goes on back to Godhead. So, Papa Mochana Ekadasi is the first Ekadasi after Gaur Purnima. And just the day after, that's the day when Govinda Ghosh, he leaves this world. So, it's easy to remember, the first Ekadasi after Gaur Purnima. So, it is on this day that Govinda Ghosh, he leaves this world. And on this day, Shri Radha Gopinath Ji, they dress in white, like the Prabhus over here, and they come and they do the pinda or shraddha ceremony. And even until today, every year on this day, if we go to India where the Gopinath Ji temple is, they will dress the deities in full white on this day. So just like our Radha Gopinath, every day they're wearing different colored clothes, some days yellow, yesterday they were wearing red, so every Ekadasi, Shri Radha Gopinath, they wear red clothes. Some days they wear blue, white, so on and so forth. So it's given that on this particular day, when Gopinath Ji's father, Govinda Ghosh, he passes away, or he passed away, and the pujaris, they dress Gopinath Ji in full white, and they take Gopinath Ji to do the pinda, or the shraddha ceremony, for his very dear devotee, Govinda Ghosh. So he's a very amazing personality. He's given as one of the eternal associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So these are the very beautiful, sweet, loving dealings between Krishna and his devotees. Now coming to today's verse, I'll read the translation again. Because of his forgetfulness, the transcendental living entity accepts the influence of material energy as his field of activities, and thus actuated, he wrongly applies the activities to himself. So this verse is spoken by Lord Kapila Dev to Mother Devahuti. The chapter title is Fundamental Principles of Material Nature. So the title itself tells us what Lord Kapila Dev is going to be talking about in this chapter, about the material energy, about the three modes, about Maya Devi or Durga Devi, how she acts upon us. So this verse is very similar to a famous verse from Bhagavad Gita, which most of us would know. Prakrite kriya manani gune karmani sarvasa ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. So this verse is, if we read the verse carefully a few times, we'll see it's very similar to this famous verse spoken by Krishna to Arjuna in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, text 27. So in Gita, Krishna says, bewildered by the three modes of material nature, the foolish living entity thinks himself to be the doer, which actually is being carried out by the three modes of material nature. So similar thing Lord Kapila Dev is talking about in today's verse. So that verse in the Bhagavad Gita and this verse today, they're talking about how the illusory energy, they covers the conditioned soul, and how we get overcome by false ego. And by false ego, we start thinking that I am the doer, I am doing everything. On my ability, my strength, everything is being accomplished. And Prabhupada in the purport, he is saying, this is material consciousness. And we have to go from material consciousness to spiritual consciousness. So we heard about material consciousness. Material consciousness means that everything that's happening is because of me. I am the doer, I am the enjoyer, I am the controller. Everything is happening because of me, so that is material consciousness. So what is spiritual consciousness? So in that same chapter of Bhagavad Gita, few verses later, Krishna, he gives the opposite verse for Prakriti Kriyamani. So Prakriti Kriyamani verse that talks about how we act in false ego, and a few verses later, Krishna explains how we're supposed to act in real ego as Krishna's servant. So in the same third chapter, there's another beautiful verse. Krishna says, Mayi sarvani karmani sanyasyadatma chetasa nirasir nirmamo bhutva yujjvasa vigata jara. So this verse explains what is spiritual consciousness, or what is the activities of someone who is in proper Krishna consciousness. So, Mayi sarvani karmani sanyasyadatma chetasa. Point number 1, Krishna says that whatever activities we do, we should surrender all those activities or do everything as an offering for the pleasure of Shri Shri Radha Gopinath. So, Mayi sarvani karmani. Sarvani means all. Karmani means activities. So, all the different activities we do during the day, Mayi sarvani karmani sanyasyadatma chetasa. Sanyas means to give up or to renounce. So, Krishna is saying whatever activities you do during the day, you renounce the fruit of those activities onto my lotus feet. Every single thing you do during the day, you do that as an offering to my lotus feet. So this is real sannyas. Sannyas doesn't, Prabhupada explains in Gita, that sannyas doesn't mean to just wear saffron clothes, and to hold a danda. Prabhupada explains that's not real sannyas. The mood of a real sannyasi is that whatever he does that fully for the pleasure of Shri Shri Radha Gopinath. So that is point number 1 of someone in spiritual consciousness. So someone in spiritual consciousness, every single thing he does during the day is simply done as an offering at the lotus feet of Shri Shri Radha Gopinath. So he wakes up in the morning, when he brushes his teeth, he takes shower, him going to the bathroom, taking shower, brushing his teeth, cleaning himself up, that's done as an offering to Shri Shri Radha Gopinath. Okay, let me freshen up, dress myself nicely, put nice tilak, wear nice clothes, and come. So when Krishna sees me, he'll be very pleased to see me with nice tilak and nice devotional clothing. So when we get up in the morning, we change, we take bath, when we dress ourselves, we should do in the mood, okay, let me dress myself nicely. So when Shri Shri Radha Gopinath, they see me, they'll be very pleased. They'll be very happy to see me. So it's given, this was the mood of the gopis. Just like ordinary Madhijis, the gopis, they used to dress themselves very nicely with different ornaments and clothes. But their whole mood in dressing themselves, Bhagavatam explains, was done in a mood to please Krishna. That let us dress ourselves very nicely with different ornaments and clothes. So when our dear Lord Krishna, he sees us, he'll be very pleased and happy with us. So in this way, every single activity we do during the day should be done in that mood. Okay, let me do this in a nice way, so Shri Shri Radha Gopinath will be very pleased with this. So, Mayi sarvani karmani sanyas yadatma chetasa. That point number 1, Krishna says, all activities should be done in a mood of surrendering to his lotus feet, in a mood of offering at his lotus feet. And yadatma chetasa, point number 2, Krishna says, these things should be done in full knowledge of me. So it shouldn't be done blindly as just a religious ritual, but it should be done in full consciousness. That, okay, Shri Shri Radha Gopinath, they're my supreme parents, they're my worshipful Lord. I am the servant, it is my duty to serve them. Then, point number 3, nirasir. Nirasir means, nirasir nirmamo bhutva. Nirasir means not desiring any profit. So that is point number 3, Krishna explains. So whenever we do any service, we should not desire anything in return for ourselves. Which can be difficult a lot of times because our mind, through so many lifetimes is conditioned to always think about what benefit can I get out of this activity. For example, we go to the kitchen, we come to the temple to do some volunteer seva. We go to the kitchen, to assist in the cooking. But still, half our mind is, trying to do the seva. The other half is thinking, okay, if I do seva for 1 hour or 2 hours, after that, Prem Sagar Prabhu, he'll give me some nice prasad, some special prasad he would have saved for me, maybe some Mahaprasad, some sweets, and Prem Sagar Prabhu, at the end of my seva, he'll give me some nice prasad. So still there's that little desire for some kind of profit. So even in devotional service, we do service, and we have good intentions. We want to do service for Sri Sri Radha Gopinath's pleasure. But at the same time, part of our consciousness, part of our mind is also calculating. After I do this service, what little profit I will get, what little benefit I get. Whether it could be prasad or some praise from the devotees, so on and so forth. So our mind is always calculating, what is in it for me? What profit I can get out of it, what gain I can get out of it. Prem Sagar Prabhu is here. If I help Prem Sagar Prabhu in the kitchen, he'll save me some nice prasad, which I ordinarily wouldn't get. So let me work very hard, please him. So he'll give me some nice prasad, I saw there was some cake in the fridge, maybe he'll give me that cake. So on and so forth. So Krishna says that this is point number 3, that one who is in spiritual consciousness or is in real ego, he doesn't desire any profit. His whole mood is everything for the pleasure of Krishna. Krishna Sukha Hetu. He doesn't have a slightest tinge of desire of any profit for himself. That's why it's said by Rupa Goswami, Anya Bilasita Sunyam, Jnana Karmadi Anavritam, Anukulyena Krishnanu, Silanam Bhakti Ruttama. That Anya Bilasita Sunyam. Sunyam means zero. So Anya Abhilas. Abhilas means desire. So Anya Abhilas. All other desires should be zero. There should be no other desires except for the desire of pleasing Krishna and pleasing Krishna's devotees. So it seems a very high level, but by practice, it can be achieved. Just like, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, we were struggling even to chant our rounds, we were struggling even to follow the 4 regular principles. From where we were 5 years ago or 10 years ago, we've come a long way, right? If you think back 2 years ago where I was, 5 years ago where I was, and you compare to us now, we've come quite a bit. We've advanced quite a bit in our spiritual life. So just like from that level we came to this level, same way from this level we can go to the next, pure level, just by practice. So we just have to stick to the process, be very determined, like Rupa Goswami says, Utsaha Nischaya Dhairaj, follow bhakti with enthusiasm, great determination and patience, and it will come. So that is point number 3, nirasir, or without any desire for profit. Then nirmamo. Nirmamo means free from any desires of proprietorship. So again, just like we were saying, desire for profit, we do some seva, but we subtly in our mind, we're calculating what will I get in return from this seva. In the same way, Krishna says, we should also have no desire for proprietorship. Now the conditioned tendency is that whenever we do something good, we always attribute the credit for that to ourselves. We maybe play instruments very nicely or cook nice prasad, do a particular seva very nicely. And we like to take credit for that for ourselves. That yes, I did this nicely. Yes, I'm a good singer, I played mridanga very nicely, I cooked very nicely, yes, I gave a very good class. So we try and attribute all the credit to ourselves, and that, boosts our false ego, makes us feel good. But Krishna is saying we should be free from all desires for proprietorship. We should always give full credit to Guru and Krishna and to the Vaishnavas. Because of their blessings, because of their mercy, inspiration, we're able to do something good. So, and also physical proprietorship, whatever possessions we have by the grace of the Lord, we shouldn't see it as our property, we should see it as Krishna's property. So this house I have, it's not my house, it's Krishna's house, which Krishna has given to me. And as his servant, I'm taking care of this house. This car doesn't belong to me, this is Krishna's car. And he's blessed me with this car, let me take care of this nicely. Let me use this in Krishna's service. Same way, this husband of mine, this wife of mine, these children of mine, they're not my property, they're all Krishna's devotees, and it's my duty to take care of them. So in that way, one should have no desire for proprietorship. So that is point number 4. And the last point Krishna says, Yujvasa Vigata Jwara. So Yujvasa means to fight. And Vigata Jwara means fight without laziness. So that is the last instruction Krishna gives to Arjuna. So laziness, again, is a big obstacle for all of us. It's given as one of the primary symptoms of someone who is born in Kali Yuga, that they'll be very, very lazy, very much in the mode of ignorance. So all of us are, super lazy, if we're very honest with ourselves. It takes so much determination, just to wake up early in the morning, just to wake up 4 o'clock in the morning. Our mind, we have to battle our mind. When the alarm rings at 4 o'clock, half our mind is thinking, go back to sleep another 5 minutes, and then, we have to gather up, using our intelligence, we have to gather up the internal strength just to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. So right from the beginning of the day till the end of the day, we're completely overcome by laziness. So Krishna says, if you want to act in spiritual consciousness, if we want to act in real ego, we have to just give up this laziness. And in the purport, Prabhupada explains how to give up laziness. Prabhupada says, there's no secret formula, you just do it. That's all Prabhupada. If you read that purport to that verse in 3rd chapter, Prabhupada says, laziness is overcome just by doing it. You just ignore it and just do it. Your mind will say, don't do it, relax. But you just ignore the mind and just do it. Just like you have the tagline of Nike, just do it. The same thing Prabhupada says in the purport. Laziness you overcome by just doing it. Just ignore the mind and just do it. So that's how you overcome laziness. Ignore the mind. So there's different techniques Prabhupada gives for challenging the mind. Like Krishna says in Gita, right? Our mind is our worst enemy. So our worst enemy is inside us, inside of ourselves. So how to defeat this worst enemy of ours, which is the mind? So one strategy Prabhupada gives is that you pray to the mind. That my dear mind, please, cooperate. This human form of life we have got only after so many millions and millions of lifetimes. So many lifetimes we have given in Maya's service. Now, my dear mind, let us give this one life for Krishna's service. This is good for us, my dear mind. Please cooperate. Please focus. Please try and chant attentively. Please try and hear attentively. Please don't think ill of other devotees. Please don't find faults. Please see the good. This is not good for us. Like this, you pray. Just like a father will, gently try and teach the children that, my dear son, this is not good. If you do this, this bad thing will happen. It's not good for your future. Like that, You take a very humble stance and you very gently, you pray to the mind. And Prabhupada, he gives the example of that famous bhajan, Bhaja Hure Mana, Sri Nanda Nandana. So that song is an example of a devotee praying to his mind. So that's a very beautiful song we can recite and sing to ourselves, praying to our mind, Please, give up your ignorance, give up your laziness, and please take shelter of Krishna, please take shelter of the holy name and Krishna's devotee. So that is one technique or strategy Prabhupada gives to defeat the mind. That you take a humble stance and you very nicely, you pray to the mind. That, my dear mind, please don't do this. If you do this, this will happen. Instead, please do this. Like that, you preach to the mind. Another thing Prabhupada says, this strategy is completely opposite. The other strategy Prabhupada says, you beat the mind. And Prabhupada would quote his spiritual master, His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, how he said, at the start of the day we should beat our mind, with a shoe or broomstick, hundreds of times. And at the end of the day, again, we beat our mind with a shoe or broomsticks hundreds of times. So what does it mean to beat our mind with a stick hundreds of times? It means using our intelligence, we should, have a strong morning program. Our mind will say, don't get up, but we say, no, we will get up. So that's like beating the mind. Mind saying to do one thing, sleep in, but we do the opposite. And this way we beat the mind. Okay, wake up early, chant some slokas, come down, sing loudly in front of Shri Shri Radha Gopinath, chant some good attentive rounds for 2 hours. So this is all beating the mind, forcing the mind. The mind is rebelling. No, I don't want to chant, I don't want to do this, I don't want to come here, I don't want to sing. But we ignore the mind and we, just hammer it, again and again and again. By having a strong morning program and again, having a strong evening program. So this Prabhupada says is the sandwich technique. During the start of the day, just like a sandwich, you have one layer of bread, another layer of bread, in the middle, you have the main thing. So in the same way Prabhupada says, at the start of the day, you have a strong morning program where you beat the mind, a lot of times, hammer in Bhagavatam, hammer in the holy name, hammer in kirtans and bhajans. And at the end of the day, again, you hammer in the mind, by reading Bhagavatam, doing kirtan, arti with the family, so on and so forth. This way we will be safe. So this is strategy number 2. Strategy number 1 is you pray to the mind, very sweetly and nicely. Strategy number 2, you act the complete opposite. Like a police officer, you just bang the mind, just with a stick, just hammer the mind. And strategy number 3, which we were talking now, is ignore the mind. So this is the third strategy Prabhupada gives. One time, one devotee, he comes up to Srila Prabhupada and he asks this question which all of us have. That Srila Prabhupada, I'm chanting, but when I'm chanting, my mind is disturbing me so much. So many things come to my mind. I'm finding it hard to focus. And what was Prabhupada's response? What solution did Prabhupada give? Prabhupada gave this solution, that you just ignore the mind. That mind, what is the question of the mind? You just chant and you just hear, Where does the mind come into all of this? Just ignore the mind, just chant and hear, that's it. So that's the solution Prabhupada gave. So this is strategy number 3, that you just ignore the mind. Just like sometimes, some person will be talking something to us and we're not so interested, we find it very boring. Externally we'll be nodding our head, but nothing will be going into our mind, Whatever that person will be saying to us, we'll be just going through one ear and just coming out through the other, Externally we'll be nodding, yes, I'm hearing. But, nothing will be going. We'll be just completely ignoring what they're saying. So, Prabhupada says, you can use that same technique with the mind. You just ignore the mind. The mind will say, do this, do that. Why are you chanting? Why are you doing this? You just nod. And you just ignore the mind and continue on doing devotional service. So, this is technique number 3. You just ignore the mind. Like Radhashyam Prabhu, he gives the example. In India, you'll have bulls, and the bulls will just, nod their head like that, cows or bulls, So in the same way, this technique is actually given by Narad Muni. If we read 7th canto of Bhagavatam, Narad Muni, he gives a technique of how one should deal with relatives who are non-devotees. So relatives, family members who are non-devotees, they'll always ask us, they'll always tell us that we're doing too much bhakti, You're doing too much bhakti, there's too much Krishna in your life, you should slow down, you should do this mature activity, that mature activity. So how to deal with these materialistic relatives? Narad Muni, he gives one very nice solution. Same solution Narad Muni gives in 7th canto, you can read. Narad Muni says, when relatives tell us to do less devotional service, when relatives tell us to engage in mature activities, the best way to deal with them, Narad Muni says, is that you don't talk back, you don't argue with them. All you do is you just hear and you just nod your head. Yes, I'm hearing. And then you just ignore whatever they're saying. So same technique Narad Muni gives in 7th canto of Bhagavatam. That, just nod your head, but ignore them. So same thing Prabhupada says you can do with the mind. That whatever the mind is saying, you just ignore and just continue doing. You're chanting, your mind brings something in, you just ignore and just continue chanting. Don't take it too seriously. Just ignore and just continue on with the service. Mind tells you, why should we wake up? You just ignore and just continue on. Okay, so technique number 1, you pray to the mind. Technique number 3, we beat the mind. And technique number 3 Prabhupada gives is, we ignore the mind. So, same way Prabhupada says, we can overcome laziness. We can overcome laziness by simply just doing it, by ignoring the mind and just doing it. One time, there's one nice pastime of Srila Prabhupada and Upendra Prabhu. So Upendra Prabhu and Bali Mardan Prabhu, they're the two pioneers of Krishna consciousness in Australia. So these two devotees, Bali Mardan Prabhu and Upendra Prabhu, they're the first two devotees who started Krishna consciousness in Australia. So previously there was no devotees in Australia, and Upendra Prabhu and Bali Mardan Prabhu, they came from America to start Krishna consciousness in Australia. And single-handedly, just these two devotees themselves, they started up the whole Australian yatra. So after establishing Krishna consciousness, in Melbourne, Sydney, they invited Srila Prabhupada to visit Australia. And Srila Prabhupada came. And Upendra Prabhu, for many years, he was Prabhupada's personal servant. And he used to cook for Srila Prabhupada. So naturally, when Srila Prabhupada, he visited Australia, this is either in Melbourne or in Sydney, that Prabhupada was staying in either Melbourne or Sydney, and Upendra Prabhu was cooking for Srila Prabhupada every day. And one day, Srila Prabhupada, he could hear Upendra Prabhu talking with some other devotees in the kitchen about, other devotees, that this devotee, he's doing like this, or this other devotee, or she, she went off that way, she's doing that. So like this, Prabhupada is hearing this chit-chat in the kitchen by Upendra Prabhu and other devotees in the kitchen. And Prabhupada, he becomes a bit upset, and Prabhupada, he calls for Upendra. Upendra Prabhu comes, offers obeisances, and then Prabhupada, he, out of concern for his disciple, Prabhupada, he starts correcting Upendra Prabhu, telling him that, this, I heard you talking with the devotees in the kitchen, this is all prajalpa, and this prajalpa is not good for your Krishna consciousness, this will very much hamper your spiritual progress. And then Upendra Prabhu, he tries to defend himself. He tells Prabhupada, no, Prabhupada, I wasn't talking about, I wasn't doing prajalpa, I wasn't just talking mundane things or materialistic things. We were just talking about other devotees. We were just talking about devotees, that this devotee is doing this, and this devotee is doing that, And Prabhupada says, even that is prajalpa. Talking about, oh, this devotee is doing that, or this devotee is that. You didn't know that this devotee did this, or did you know that this devotee did that? Prabhupada tells Upendra that even that is prajalpa. Krishna Katha means you should just glorify Krishna. Talk from Bhagavatam, talk from the Shastras. Like this, Prabhupada advises Upendra Prabhu. And then Prabhupada tells Upendra that previously, I used to see you used to open up Bhagavatam, you used to recite slokas, memorize slokas, and discuss from Bhagavatam. How come you're not doing that anymore? Then Upendra Prabhu tells Prabhupada that, oh, Prabhupada, I used to do that before, but now I'm too lazy, I'm too lazy to memorize slokas, I'm too lazy to read Bhagavatam, Before, as a new devotee I used to do, but now, I'm too lazy to do it. So he was using this as an excuse, that laziness that we are talking about. So when Upendra Prabhu, he tells this to Prabhupada, that, oh, I'm too lazy to memorize slokas. What was Prabhupada's response? Prabhupada tells Upendra Prabhu that actually, you're not lazy, you're just simply misdirecting your energy. So in this way, Prabhupada, he advises Upendra Prabhu. So Prabhupada tells Upendra Prabhu that actually speaking, there is no such thing as laziness. Because Krishna explains in the Gita that the nature of the soul is to be active. So by very definition, the soul has to be always doing something. So there is no concept of laziness for the soul. So by nature, Krishna explains in Gita, that we always have to be active. We always have to be doing something. Even you sit down and do nothing, in our mind, so many different things will come up. Why? Because the nature of the soul is to be active. The soul always has to be doing something. So when we're saying that we're very lazy to do something, Prabhupada is saying, actually it's not laziness. It's just simply we're using our free will and misdirecting our human energy in another activity. So laziness, Prabhupada says, is just an excuse of misdirecting our mental, physical, verbal energy in another activity. Because by nature, we are active. So in this way, Prabhupada explains, actually there's no such thing as laziness. Laziness is simply another way of saying that I'm consciously going to choose not to do this and do something else. Instead of directing my energies for Krishna's service, I will direct my energies for some material thing. So in this way, Prabhupada, he advises Upendra Prabhu that actually you're not lazy, you're just consciously choosing, instead of putting energy to reciting Bhagavatam, you're consciously choosing to put your energy to talk Prajalpa. And then, final instruction Prabhupada gives to Upendra Prabhu, that time is very precious, don't waste it. Like this Prabhupada, he advises Upendra Prabhu that one moment of time gone, we can't claim back. 1 second is gone, we can't go back in time. Although there are many movies out there of time travel, in reality, there's no such thing as time travel. We can never travel back in time. Prabhupada quotes Chanakya Pandit and says, even if we spend $1 million, $1 billion, still we can't travel back in time for a second. That's why Prabhupada says, quoting Chanakya Pandit, that just a second of time is worth more than $1 million, is worth more than $1 billion. Because even if you give $1 billion, you can't buy 1 second of time. In this way, Prabhupada advises Upendra Prabhu that life is short, time is very precious, don't waste it. Every moment counts, every second counts. Don't waste it talking Prajalpa. Utilize your time very carefully. So this very nice pastime of Srila Prabhupada and his dear disciple is something we can always remember, because it applies to all of us. All of us, we get overcome by this disease of laziness in our spiritual lives in so many different areas. Every day it happens to us. So we have to consciously use our intelligence to direct our energies towards pleasing Sri Sri Radha Gopinath. So in this way, in this very beautiful verse in 3rd chapter, Krishna explains how we can act in spiritual consciousness, how we can act in real ego. So the opposite verse is Prakriti Kriyamani verse. So that verse explains how one acts in false ego. The opposite of that, few verses later, Krishna explains in this verse, Maya sarvani karmani sanyas yadatma chetasa nirasir nirmama bhutva yujvasa vigata jvara. That all your activities, you surrender at my lotus feet, do it for my pleasure. Do that in full consciousness of me, with full knowledge of me. Point number 3, without any desire for profit, nirasir, nirmama, without any desire for proprietorship. And point number 5, giving up all laziness. Do the service, giving up all your laziness. So that is spiritual consciousness. I'll read the first line of the purport. Prabhupada says at the start of the purport, the forgetful living entity can be compared to a man who is under the influence of disease and has become mad, or to a man haunted by ghosts who acts without control and yet thinks himself to be in control. So 2 examples Prabhupada is giving in the purport, describing our situation in this material world. Prabhupada is saying, for conditioned soul, he can be compared to a particular man who has gotten some mental disease and is acting like a madman. So Prabhupada is saying, according to Shastra, all of us, conditioned soul, we're just like madmen. We have gotten overcome by the disease of mature existence, and we're just acting like crazy people. Thinking I am the doer, I am the enjoyer, I am the controller. So this is all symptoms of someone who has gone mad. And the second example Prabhupada gives, first example is a madman who has some mental disease. Second example Prabhupada gives is of someone who is haunted by a ghost. So again, when someone gets possessed by a ghost, again he acts crazily. He acts like a mad person. So when someone sees someone in such a condition, what is the natural feeling? We'll feel compassionate for them. If you see someone with some mental disease, someone who's haunted by a ghost, naturally you want to do something to help that person, overcome the disease or help that person get freed from the ghost which is possessing him. So this is the mood of Krishna. According to Shastra, when Krishna, he looks down into the material world and he sees all the conditioned souls suffering in material existence, acting like mad people, Krishna, he feels great compassion. So much so, he personally comes down and he sends so many devotees of his from the spiritual world to come down and save the fallen conditioned souls. Yesterday I was hearing Ghanshyam Prabhu, he was giving the example of Balaji. So, as we all know, Balaji is the famous deity of Krishna in South India, in Tirupati. And Balaji is said to be the avatar in the previous Kali Yuga. So currently we're in Kali Yuga, previous to that was Dwapar Yuga, previous to that was Treta Yuga, previous to that was Satya Yuga, and previous to that was, again, the Kali Yuga on the last cycle. So these 4 yugas, they keep on rotating, one after another. So in the previous Kali Yuga, in this Kali Yuga, the Yuga avatar is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In the previous Kali Yuga, the Yuga avatar was Lord Balaji. So Lord Balaji, he has been here for, for whole Yuga cycle. He has been here, present. And there is one verse, just like the Yuga Dharma of Kali Yuga is, Nama Sankirtan. The Yuga Dharma Kali Yuga is to chant the holy names of Krishna. So Mahaprabhu, he came and he taught everyone how to chant the holy name. Same way Balaji in the previous Kali Yuga, he taught all of his devotees, he inspired all the devotees to chant the holy names of Krishna in the previous Kali Yuga. And that's why if we go to Tirupati, Ghanshyam Prabhu is saying, you'll hear the devotees of Balaji, calling out, different names of Krishna, addressing Balaji, like Govinda. They will call Balaji Govinda and recite different prayers and holy names of Lord Balaji. And in one particular prayer or sloka, glorifying Balaji, it is given. The start of the verse goes, Vaikunta Viraktir. It starts like that. I think if you Google it, Vaikunta Viraktir, maybe the whole sloka might come up. But the start of the sloka starts with this, Vaikunta Viraktir. So Viraktir means to renounce. Right? Like Prabhupada says, we should have Viraktir, we should have we should renounce sense gratification. And we should simply act for Krishna's pleasure. So this verse is glorifying Balaji by saying, Balaji had Vaikunta Viraktir. Balaji, he renounced Vaikunta. He gave up Vaikunta. Why? This sloka explains, Balaji, he was in the spiritual world, he was in Vaikunta, enjoying with his associates. But he has so much compassion, kindness in him, and he wants to bestow that compassion upon someone. But in Vaikunta, everyone is already a pure devotee, so who to preach to, who to give the mercy to, who to be compassionate upon. Everyone is already a pure devotee. So there's no one to give mercy, there's no one to give kindness. So therefore it's given, this verse explains, because in Vaikunta there's no one to give mercy to, Balaji, he renounces Vaikunta. He gives up Vaikunta Viraktir, and he descends into the material world to give his mercy, to give his compassion onto all the fallen conditioned souls. So this is the mood of Krishna, this should be the mood of all of us. This should be the mood of all of us who are devotees of Sri Sri Radha Gopinath. That we should feel pain upon seeing the pain of others, para dukkha dukhi. Just like we go out and we see someone struggling with some illness or disease, naturally, we will feel some compassion for them. We will naturally think, what can I do to help that person? So in the same way, by Prabhupada's mercy, we've all got cured from the madness of material existence. We've become cured. But when we go out there and we see others who still have that disease, mental disease, of thinking they're the enjoyer, the doer, solely acting for sense gratification, we should be compassionate and we should think of ways of how we can slowly bring them to the lotus feet of Sri Sri Radha Gopinath. And Krishna says in the end of the Bhagavad Gita, one who does so, he is my most dear devotee. And he'll always be my most dear devotee at the present and in the future. Okay, with this, I'll stop here. If there's any question or comments. Okay. Thank you very much. Gantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Jaguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Tagore Premanande.